Marcus Reed heard the laughter before he even looked up. It cut through the quiet morning like a blade, sharp, dismissive, echoing off the metal shutters of his tiny storefront. His hands froze over the crate of handmade teas he'd been arranging. Sunlight slanted across the sidewalk, warm against his skin, but the sound chilled him. Officer Keller stood a few feet away, thumbs hooked into his duty belt, smirking as if the street belonged to him alone. His partner lingered behind, expression unreadable. "So this is it." Keller scoffed, waving a hand at Marcus's modest shop. Didn't know broom closets counted as businesses. The line sliced straight through Marcus's chest. He swallowed. "It's enough," he said quietly. Keller leaned in, his shadow falling over the doorframe. "Men like you should aim lower. This whole setup," he flicked a dismissive glance at the shelves inside, "is temporary. Trust me." A passing couple slowed, sensing something wrong, but hurried off when Keller's eyes flicked toward them. The street returned to stillness, broken only by the soft hum of traffic and Marcus's tightening breath. Inside, the gentle fragrance of hibiscus and citrus teas mixed with a faint tremor of fear rising in him. He felt the old familiar burn, the one that came every time someone tried to shrink him, crush him, define him. Then Keller said the line that would haunt Marcus for days. "Shops like yours don't last." Marcus didn't answer. Couldn't, because at that exact moment, his phone buzzed with a message that made his heart stop, a message Keller glanced at before Marcus could hide it. His face changed, and then nothing, only silence, a cliff edge, and Marcus knew everything was about to shift. Morning light spilled across the storefront as Marcus adjusted the last row of jars, hands steady even as sleep still tugged at his eyes. The soft clink of glass, the quiet hum of the waking street. It was the one peaceful moment he got each day, until the laughter shattered it. "Seriously? This your shop?" The voice slapped across the pavement. Marcus didn't need to look to know who it belonged to. His shoulders tightened before he slowly turned. Officer Keller stood in front of the shop with the smugness of someone who believed the world bowed beneath his boots. His partner, Officer Dwyer, hovered a few steps behind, gaze shifting uneasily. Marcus forced his breath out. "Morning, officer." Keller gave the storefront a long once-over, lips curled. "Morning? Looks like morning to me. This place dying already." Marcus kept his hands at his sides. "Business is steady." "Steady?" Keller barked a laugh. "Man, this whole block has bigger bathrooms than your shop." He tapped the window with a knuckle. "What's that smell anyway?" "Hibiscus," Marcus said gently. "It's one of my—" Nah, Keller cut in. "Don't pitch it to me. I'm not your customer. I don't waste money on this." The pause after this lingered like a stain. Dwyer flinched, just barely. Keller didn't notice. Marcus swallowed. "If you don't need anything, I have work." "Oh, I need something," Keller said. "I need you to understand reality." He stepped closer, lowering his voice but widening his smirk. "Men like you don't run stores. They run problems. And this—" he gestured around. "This is temporary. Trust me." The words punched through Marcus's ribs. He felt heat rising in his face, not from shame but from the familiar exhaustion, the weight of fighting for every inch of respect. A couple walking by slowed, sensing tension. Keller's stare sent them scurrying. Inside the shop, sunlight-warmed shelves lined with carefully labeled blends, everything Marcus had built with his own hands. Yet standing before Keller, he felt small again. Years of navigating rooms where he was underestimated, dismissed, or quietly pushed aside pressed against his chest. "Officer," Marcus said calmly, "I'm just trying to run my business. Please don't." Keller lifted a hand. "Relax. I'm just saying the truth. Shops like yours don't last." The sentence sliced through the air. Marcus felt it settle heavy in his stomach, and then his phone buzzed. Keller's eyes flicked to the screen before Marcus could turn it over. Something in his expression shifted. Confusion? Disbelief? Then he masked it quickly. "What was that?" Keller asked sharply. "Just a message," Marcus said. "From who?" Marcus didn't answer. He couldn't, because the message preview alone made his pulse hammer. "Confidential. Your flagship approval is ready. Call immediately." He locked the phone, heart racing. Keller stepped back, suspicious. Don't get any ideas. This place isn't going anywhere. But Marcus barely heard him. His world had tilted. The humiliation still stung, but something bigger now lurked beneath it, something Keller sensed but didn't understand. As Keller walked away, his laughter fading into the morning air, Marcus stood frozen in the doorway. A single question echoed inside him, chilling and electric. What happens when the truth comes out? The street hadn't fully woken when Marcus unlocked the shop the next morning, but whispers already floated between storefronts like restless ghosts. He felt them before he heard them, sideways glances, murmured conversations that stopped when he approached, then resumed when he stepped inside. He set his bag down and exhaled slowly. So this is how today is going to be, he muttered. A soft chime sounded as a door opened behind him. Marcus. It was Gloria, who ran the flower stand 2 doors down, her arms cradling a bucket of fresh lilies. She stepped in cautiously, eyes darting toward the window as though Keller might materialize again. "You okay?" she asked. Marcus nodded stiffly. "I'm fine." "You don't look fine." He hesitated. "Keller came by yesterday. Said some things." "Everyone heard," she whispered. "His voice carries." Marcus tried to brush it off. "Doesn't matter." "It does." Gloria lowered her voice. "He's been doing this for years. Find someone to target. Always someone who can't fight back easily." "I can fight back," Marcus said, though the words felt thin. Gloria raised a brow. "Can you?" Against a man with a badge, a record of complaints that go nowhere, and a reputation for twisting anything into resisting? He didn't respond, because that fear, the fear of becoming a headline, lived in every black man he knew. She sighed and set the lilies on the counter. "Just be careful. People are talking." "What people?" She hesitated. "Some shop owners think Keller's trying to find a reason to shut you down. They said he mentioned violations." Marcus's jaw tightened. "Violations? My place is up to code." "Doesn't matter if he says it isn't." That truth dug under Marcus's skin like a thorn. Another voice called from the doorway. "Gloria's right." Old Mr. Hernandez, who owned a corner grocery for 30 years, stepped in with a slow limp. He removed his cap, concern etched deep in his wrinkled face. "Keller chooses targets," he said quietly. "Seen it too many times." Marcus crossed his arms. "Why doesn't anyone report him?" "We have," Hernandez said. "Nothing sticks. Paperwork disappears. Complaints lack evidence. It's a system built to shield men like him." Marcus's stomach clenched as he exchanged a look with Gloria. The pattern was bigger than he'd realized. "And you?" Hernandez asked. "You thinking of filing something?" Marcus shook his head. "Not yet." "Good." Hernandez placed a hand on his shoulder. "Not until you have something to protect you." Before Marcus could respond, his phone buzzed again. He froze. Another confidential message. Gloria peered at him. "You look like you've seen a ghost." He cleared his throat. "It's nothing." But she wasn't convinced. "Marcus, something's going on." He pocketed the phone quickly. "I need to finish setting up." They exchanged worried glances, then quietly left him alone. The silence that followed felt heavier than before. Marcus leaned against the counter, pulse buzzing under his skin. He unlocked his phone. "Confidential. We need to meet in person. Your brand's traction is accelerating. Do not disclose anything yet. Reply yes for details." His mouth went dry. "Traction? Again?" This wasn't coincidence. Marcus typed yes, thumb trembling. A few minutes later, a new message appeared. "Meeting scheduled. Location will be sent shortly. Come alone." The words unsettled him, but curiosity outweighed fear. He exhaled and slipped the phone into his pocket, turning to finish arranging the jars of tea blends he'd crafted over years of trial and error. Each scent, citrus, chamomile, ginger, mint, grounded him, reminding him of purpose. The doorbell jingled again. This time, it was a group of neighboring business owners whispering just outside the entrance. Their eyes flicked to Marcus, then away. One muttered something Marcus couldn't hear. He stepped outside. "Morning." They stiffened. One of them, a man he'd spoken to dozens of times, cleared his throat. "Morning, Marcus." Another shifted uncomfortably. "Heard Keller was here yesterday." Marcus nodded slowly. "Yeah." His looking into some things, the first man said. He mentioned possible violations. "Did he now?" Marcus asked, voice calm but eyes sharp. They exchanged uneasy looks. "I'm sure it's nothing personal," the second man insisted too quickly. "You know how it is. Officers just doing their job." Marcus stared at him. "Is that what you think he was doing?" No answer, just silence and the scraping of someone's shoe on concrete. Finally, they mumbled awkward goodbyes and walked off, leaving Marcus standing alone. The street felt colder. Inside, he sank into a chair, rubbing his temples. The damage had already started. People distancing themselves, afraid Keller's scrutiny might spread to them. And still, the message from the mysterious contact pulsed in his mind. His brand? Traction? Flagship potential? For years he'd struggled just to keep lights on. Could his online store really have become something big enough to draw attention from powerful players? Before he could think further, the phone chimed again. A location pin dropped onto his screen. Downtown, a high-rise corporate tower. The kind of place he'd never imagined stepping into. Marcus stared at it, feeling the weight of two worlds tugging at him, one trying to shrink him, the other trying to pull him upward. He whispered into the quiet shop, "What am I stepping into?" He didn't know, but he was going. The elevator hummed softly as it rose, each floor number blinking like a reminder that Marcus was far from the world he knew. He adjusted the collar of his shirt, palms damp despite the cool, conditioned air. The mirrored walls reflected his unease back at him. "What am I even doing here?" he whispered under his breath. When the door slid open, a woman in a charcoal blazer greeted him immediately. "Mr. Reed." Her tone was crisp but warm. "Yes." "Right this way. They've been waiting." "They?" Marcus's pulse quickened as he followed her down a sleek hallway lined with glass offices and quiet murmurs of polished voices discussing markets, projections, expansions. She opened a door to a conference room. Inside sat two executives, one middle-aged man with silver hair and a tablet in front of him, and a woman with sharp eyes studying a folder marked Reed Botanicals. The sight of his brand name printed so formally made his breath hitch. "Mr. Reed," the silver-haired man said, rising to shake his hand. "I'm Daniel Price, VP of Global Retail. This is Ms. Lin, Senior Expansion Strategist." Ms. Lin gestured for him to sit. "We appreciate you coming on such short notice." Marcus sank into the chair. "I didn't know what this was about. The messages were vague." "That was intentional," Ms. Lin replied gently. "Your brand has attracted significant attention. We didn't want any premature leaks." Marcus blinked. "My brand? You mean my tea shop?" Daniel smiled. "Not just a shop, your online presence. Your blends have quietly gone viral across several regions. Influencers in East Asia, Europe, and West Africa have been reviewing your products. Demand is outpacing supply." Marcus stared at him, stunned. "I make those in the back of my shop. And people around the world are buying them faster than you can produce," Ms. Lin said. "You created something authentic, and authenticity travels." He leaned forward, voice barely above a whisper. "I had no idea." Daniel tapped his tablet, turning it toward him. "This is your traction over the last 90 days. Marcus's eyes widened. Graphs surged upward, numbers he never imagined attached to his modest blends. "This can't be real," he murmured. "It is," Ms. Lin said, "which is why we're offering you something unprecedented." Marcus looked up slowly. Daniel clasped his hands. "We want your shop to become our company's U.S. flagship store. A full partnership, full branding rights, full distribution. You'd run the creative. We'd handle global logistics." The words hit him like thunder. "My shop?" he whispered. "That little storefront." Ms. Lin smiled. "That little storefront is the birthplace of a brand with global momentum. A flagship should always honor its roots." Marcus sat back, overwhelmed. "Why me? Why now?" Daniel's expression softened. Because you built something powerful without institutional support. Because people trust what you've made. And because we believe you deserve a platform beyond your block. Marcus's throat tightened. Keller's mocking voice echoed in his mind. Men like you don't run stores. Yet here he was, being told he might run a global flagship. Ms. Lin slid a folder across the table. Review this. It outlines revenue shares, brand protection terms, and your role. His hand trembled as he touched it. There's one thing, Daniel added. We heard rumors that you're facing obstruction from local officers. Marcus stiffened. I don't want trouble. We're not asking you to make claims, Daniel said calmly. But if anyone attempts to sabotage your business, we have legal teams prepared to intervene. A flagship requires stability. Marcus swallowed hard. Keller filed false violations against people before. If he targets me, it could ruin this deal. Ms. Lin leaned forward. If he targets you, he will be targeting a corporation with global reach. And trust me, we fight back. Marcus released a shaky breath. Daniel closed his tablet. Take 2 days to think. But, Mr. Reed, from what we've seen, you're ready. Your brand is ready. Marcus stood slowly, still absorbing the surreal turn his life had taken. As he reached the door, Ms. Lin said softly, one piece of advice, don't let anyone small enough to mock your beginnings stop you from stepping into your future. He paused, the words settling deep into him. Outside the building, sunlight felt different, sharp, golden, electric. He looked at his phone, at the address of his shop, and whispered, Keller has no idea what he's laughing at. But a chill crawled up his spine, because he also knew now that something big was forming around him. Keller would sense it, and he wouldn't back down easily. Marcus barely slept that night. Every time he closed his eyes, he saw the conference room, the charts, the folder with his name printed in bold. But just as often, he saw Keller's make, heard the echo of shops like yours don't last. By morning, the anxiety had knotted tight in his stomach. He stepped into his shop, flicked on the lights, and froze. 2 police cruisers were parked directly outside. His breath thinned. No, not already. The door swung open before he could even reach for the lock. Officer Keller stepped in, expression smug and rehearsed. Morning, Reed. Behind him, Officer Dwyer looked uncomfortable, eyes studying the floor tiles instead of Marcus. Marcus kept his voice steady. What do you want now? Keller held up a clipboard. Routine inspection. You're not a code inspector, Marcus said. No, Keller replied, stepping forward, but we can issue citations if we see violations, which, lucky me, I already have. Marcus blinked. What violations? Keller sauntered toward the back shelves, tapping labels with exaggerated scrutiny. Unsecured storage, questionable packaging, overcrowded displays. You know, hazards. Those aren't violations, Marcus snapped. Everything here passes city regulations. Keller smirked. Not according to my report. Dwyer finally spoke, voice low. Keller, maybe we should. Keller cut him off. Stay in your lane, Dwyer. Dwyer's jaw tightened, but he fell silent again. Marcus stepped between Keller and the counter. You're targeting me. Everyone knows it. Keller leaned in until Marcus could see the flecks of arrogance in his eyes. Targeting? No. Documenting. And if your shop happens to get shut down, well, maybe that's just the universe correcting a mistake. Marcus felt heat rise in his chest. You can't shut me down. Keller tapped the clipboard. This is otherwise. He scribbled a signature, tore off a bright yellow notice, and slapped it against Marcus's front window. Temporary suspension, investigation pending. Marcus stared at it, numb. You're shutting me down? Without warning. Sometimes warnings are for people who deserve them, Keller said. We both know that's not you. Dwyer winced. Keller. Outside, Keller ordered. Dwyer hesitated, then stepped out. Marcus followed them to the sidewalk. Why are you doing this? What did I ever do to you? Keller turned, expression flattening into something colder than contempt. You opened a shop where you weren't supposed to. You're acting bigger than you are. And I don't like being laughed at. Marcus stiffened. Laughed at? When did I? Keller's lip curled. Doesn't matter. I see the looks you give me. The attitude. You want to play businessman. Fine. But don't pretend you're untouchable. The accusation struck deeper than Marcus expected. Keller wasn't reacting to something Marcus did. He was reacting to who Marcus was. Keller, this is harassment, Marcus said. I know my rights. Know whatever you want, Keller snapped. By the time we're done investigating, this place will be shut down for good. Marcus swallowed hard. Is this because of the message you saw? Keller's eyes hardened. Watch yourself. So he had seen something. Something that made him feel threatened. Marcus felt a tremor of fear, not for the flagship deal, but for what a desperate man with power might do. Keller stepped closer. Piece of advice? Don't get ahead of yourself. This block doesn't need your kind of success story. Marcus's breath caught. There it was. Not even thinly veiled anymore. Dwyer shifted uncomfortably. Keller, that's enough. No, Marcus said, voice steadier than he felt. Let him talk. Let him say what he really thinks. Keller smirked. What I think is that dreams built on weak foundations crumble fast. And yours? He glanced at the notice on the window, already collapsing. With that, he turned to leave. Dwyer lingered, meeting Marcus's eyes briefly, an apologist silently lodged behind them, before following his partner. The street remained painfully quiet. Business owners peeked from their storefronts, pretending they hadn't watched every second. Marcus pressed his forehead against the glass, breath trembling. The deal, the flagship, everything could unravel if Keller's report spread. He dug his phone from his pocket and emailed Ms. Lynn instantly. Urgent. My shop was placed under suspension today. I believe targeted harassment is involved. Please advise. Her reply came within minutes. We anticipated pushback. Do not close your doors fully. Our legal team is en route. Keep documenting everything. Marcus exhaled shakily. Maybe Keller had power, but he wasn't the only one in the mall. Still, as he looked at the bright yellow notice reflecting in the sunlight, the weight of it pressed down on him like a stone. This wasn't over. Not even close. By the next morning, the yellow suspension notice had become a spectacle. People stopped to stare. Some whispered. Others took photos as if Marcus's storefront were a cautionary exhibit. Marcus stood inside, hands braced on the counter, watching his reputation bleed out onto the sidewalk. Gloria entered first, her expression tight. Marcus, have you seen the news? He shook his head. What news? She fumbled for her phone, tapped a link, and held the screen toward him. A local news channel ran a headline. Unlicensed shop under investigation for health violations. Community safety concerns raised. A reporter stood directly outside Marcus's store. Footage showed Keller in uniform, speaking vaguely about compliance issues and public safety. Marcus's stomach dropped. They filmed him here. Last night, Gloria whispered, after you closed. He scrolled down the article. Anonymous sources, claims of improper storage, concerns about contamination, all without evidence. Marcus felt something hollow out inside him. This is how they do it. They don't shut you down with force. They shut you down with reputation. Gloria touched his arm gently. People who know you won't believe this. He gave a short, bitter laugh. People who know me aren't the ones reading this. Before Gloria could answer, the door opened again. It was Dwyer. He paused, awkward, scanning the shop as though trespassing into a crime scene. Marcus, can we talk? Marcus crossed his arms. You part of this too. Dwyer shook his head. Not like Keller. I didn't agree with the report. But you didn't stop it, Marcus said flatly. Silence. Dwyer exhaled slowly. Look, I'm sorry. I know that doesn't fix anything. No, Marcus said. It doesn't. Dwyer rubbed the back of his neck. The report is already in the system. Keller submitted it before anyone could review it. Once it goes public, it's hard to walk back. It already is public, Marcus said, holding up Gloria's phone. Dwyer flinched. Damn, I didn't know it got picked up already. You gave him power by staying quiet, Marcus said, and now my livelihood is a headline. Dwyer swallowed. If I come forward, will you listen? Marcus paused. Why would you? You said nothing yesterday. Because I saw your face, Dwyer said softly. And because Keller isn't who people think he is. He's worse. Marcus didn't respond. Not yet. Outside, a man approached the window, staring at the suspension notice, shaking his head. He walked away quickly, as if being seen near Marcus's shop could taint him too. The humiliation burned. After Dwyer left, Marcus locked the door, retreating to the back room. His phone vibrated endlessly, customers asking if he was shutting down, wholesalers canceling orders until the investigation clears, influencers withdrawing collaborations. He sank onto a stool, gripping the edge of the workbench. God, what do I do? His phone chimed again. Ms. Lynn, we saw the broadcasts. Our legal team is preparing a formal response. Do not panic. This does not affect the flagship deal unless the allegations stand, and they won't. Marcus rubbed his eyes. Unless they stand, Keller wants them to stand. He typed back, they'd destroy my name before I even get the chance to build something. Her response came quickly. Then we expose the truth. But you must stay grounded. They are counting on you to break. He inhaled sharply, but the day only grew worse. By noon, 3 major wholesalers had emailed. We are suspending all future orders pending resolution. We cannot associate with vendors under investigation. Please contact us after your legal issues settle. Legal issues he didn't have, until Keller fabricated them. He leaned forward, elbows on his knees, head in his hands. His phone buzzed again, a notification from a local community forum. Avoid Reed Botanicals for now. Police found violations. I heard he was selling things without proper licensing. Scary how these places pop up everywhere. It wasn't just suspension anymore. It was character assassination. The door rattled suddenly. Marcus jerked upright. A customer he knew well, Mrs. Palmer, peered through the glass. When she saw him looking, she offered a guilty smile. He unlocked the door. Mrs. Palmer, you don't have to hide. She stepped in nervously. Oh, Marcus, I just wanted to check on you. But my daughter, she said maybe I shouldn't buy anything until the police sort things out. Marcus nodded slowly. I understand. No, sweetheart, I don't think you do. She reached for his hand. I know you, but people scare easy, and they believe what they see on TV. He forced a smile. Thanks for coming anyway. After she left, the silence felt suffocating. Even those who believed in him were hesitating. His business wasn't just under attack. His identity was. As he stood in the empty shop, surrounded by shelves he'd built himself, jars he'd filled with care, blends he perfected after years of trial and error, Marcus whispered to no one, "He's taking everything from me." But then, almost as if the universe wanted to remind him he wasn't alone, his phone chimed again. Ms. Lynn, Marcus, our executives reviewed the police report. There are inconsistencies. Serious ones. We're launching an internal investigation, and if misconduct is proven, we will request city involvement. Marcus stated the message. Maybe Keller had influence here, but Ms. Lynn's corporation had influence everywhere, and Keller had just picked a fight bigger than himself. Marcus stood up, steadying his breath. Okay, he said quietly, if this is the game, I'm not backing down. The day after the news report, the shop felt like a shadow of itself. Marcus kept the lights on, but customers stayed away. The suspension notice, bright and humiliating, clung to the window like a warning sign. Marcus sat at the counter, scrolling through the corporation's latest email. Our legal team is preparing a challenge to the police report. Remain available. Documentation is key. He rubbed his temple. I'm available. I'm just unraveling. A soft knock startled him. He looked up to see Officer Dwyer standing outside, shifting nervously from foot to foot. His uniform looked heavier today, as if guilt added weight to every patch and badge. Marcus opened the door halfway. What now? I came alone, Dwyer said quickly. Keller doesn't know I'm here. Marcus stepped aside stiffly. Say what you need to say. Dwyer entered, shutting the door behind him. He didn't move farther than a few steps, as if afraid he didn't deserve to. "Marcus, I saw the report he filed," Dwyer said. "It's dishonest. Parts of it were written before we even came here." Marcus narrowed his eyes. "Meaning what exactly?" "Meaning he planned this." Dwyer swallowed. "He wanted you shut down. He didn't even pretend it was objective." Marcus felt heat rise in his chest. "Why? Why target me?" Dwyer hesitated. "Because you embarrassed him." Marcus blinked. "By existing?" Dwyer didn't answer. Silence thickened between them. Finally, Dwyer spoke again. "There's more. He's been building a pattern, targeting minority-owned businesses on this block for months. He pushes until something sticks." Marcus stared at him, stunned, and no one stopped him. People tried. Complaints went nowhere. Dwyer lowered his voice. "But this time, I recorded things. Notes, dates, comments he made. I couldn't stay silent anymore." Marcus's breath caught. "You have proof?" Dwyer nodded. "Some. Enough to question his report. Enough to show bias." Marcus gripped the edge of the counter. "Why come to me? Why not your supervisor?" Dwyer shook his head. "Supervisors don't go against Keller. He's protected, and I'm just a junior officer." He took a shaky breath. "But you have people backing you. I heard you're working with lawyers now." Marcus didn't deny it. Dwyer continued, voice trembling. "If I give you what I have, the notes, the timestamps, the things he said, you could use it. Your lawyers could. And maybe someone will finally believe what he's been doing." Marcus stared at him. The man looked terrified. Of Keller, of the department, of the consequences of telling the truth. "Dwyer," Marcus said slowly, "why risk this for me?" "Because I watched him tear you down for no reason," Dwyer whispered. "Because I see the way he talks to you, and people like you, and I can't pretend it's normal anymore. And because," his voice cracked, "I don't want to become him." Marcus's anger loosened, replaced by something more complicated, a mix of empathy and disbelief. He stepped closer. "If you help me, you understand Keller will know." Dwyer nodded. "He'll destroy me. I know." Marcus shook his head. "No, not if we do this right." Dwyer blinked. "What do you mean?" Marcus grabbed his phone and opened the most recent email from the corporate lawyers. "I'm not fighting him alone anymore. There are people who can protect you, lawyers, investigators, media if necessary." Dwyer's eyes widened. "You do that? For me?" Marcus let out a slow breath. "You came here. You told the truth. That matters." Dwyer nodded, shoulders trembling with relief he wasn't ready to show. Then he pulled a small notebook from inside his vest. "This is everything I recorded," he said. "Every incident. Every comment Keller made. Every time he mentioned shutting your place down before he even inspected it." Marcus took the notebook carefully, almost reverently. The pages were filled with detailed notes, dates, times, quotes. "Dwyer," Marcus whispered, "this could change everything." Dwyer exhaled shakily. "I hope so." They stood in silence for a moment. Then Marcus asked, "What will you do now?" "I don't know." Dwyer swallowed. "But Keller's getting worse. He's angry, obsessing over you. You need to be careful." Marcus nodded. "I'm not backing down. Not anymore." Dwyer nodded once, then turned to leave. At the door, he paused. "Marcus." "Yes." "You didn't deserve any of this." Marcus felt something inside him tighten. Not pain, but recognition. "Neither did you," Marcus said softly. Dwyer's eyes flickered with gratitude before he slipped out onto the street, disappearing into the sunlight like a man carrying a secret too heavy for his badge. Marcus stood alone in his shop, holding the notebook, the first real crack in Keller's armor. For the first time in days, hope didn't feel fragile. It felt sharp, weapon-like, and Keller had no idea what was coming. The next 48 hours unfolded like a storm. Corporate lawyers arrived in sleek cars, stepping onto Marcus's block as if they were entering a battlefield. They reviewed Keller's suspension notice, inspected the shop, photographed every corner, and collected Dwyer's notebook with solemn precision. By afternoon, a statement hit the press. Global Retail Corporation questions legitimacy of police suspension against local black business owner. Investigation requested. The reaction was explosive. News vans crowded the street. Reporters lingered near Marcus's shop, whispering about corruption, misconduct, racial profiling. Camera crews angled themselves strategically, waiting for Keller. And on the morning of the third day, they got him. Marcus was sweeping his storefront when Keller strode up the sidewalk, jaw clenched, sunglasses hiding whatever storm was brewing behind them. Dwyer trailed a few steps behind, pale but resolute. Marcus stepped back, instinctively bracing. Keller pointed a finger at him. "What the hell did you do?" "Good morning to you too," Marcus said evenly. "You think you can drag my department into some kind of scandal? You think you're untouchable now because you hired lawyers." "I didn't hire anyone," Marcus corrected. "They hired themselves. Turns out people care when lies get printed." Keller's nostrils flared. There were no lies. Marcus held up the corporation's written statement. "Funny, they found 6 discrepancies in your report, including timestamps that don't match reality." Keller's voice dropped to a growl. "You're playing a dangerous game." Marcus didn't flinch. "So are you." A crowd had begun forming. Neighbors, customers, curious onlookers. Phones were out. Cameras recording. Even the news crew perked up, adjusting microphones. Keller noticed the attention and straightened abruptly. "Put the phones away. This doesn't concern you." No one moved. His jaw tightened. He stepped closer to Marcus. "I know you're behind those articles. Behind that corporate nonsense. You really think this is going to save your little shop?" Marcus's voice was quiet but firm. "I think the truth will." "The truth?" Keller laughed coldly. "Truth is whatever gets written in my report." Dwyer looked sick. Marcus looked calm. "Not anymore." Whispers rippled through the crowd. A reporter stepped forward. "Officer Keller, would you like to comment on the accusation of targeted harassment?" Keller's head snapped toward her. "This is an active investigation. I'm not answering questions." Another reporter chimed in. "Why did your report include violations that don't exist?" Keller barked. "Back off." The tension spiked. Keller's posture stiffened. He turned slowly toward Marcus, eyes burning. "This is your fault," Keller said. "You're using the race card, making trouble where there's none." Marcus's body tightened, but his voice remained steady. "I'm not making anything. I'm surviving what you created." "You calling me racist?" Keller spat. "I'm calling you accountable." Gasps fluttered through the air. Keller stepped forward, invading Marcus's space. "Watch your mouth." Marcus didn't move. Then Keller made a mistake, the kind that happens when arrogance outweighs judgment. He shoved Marcus backward. Hard. Gasps erupted. Phones lifted higher. The news cameras zoomed in. Marcus stumbled but caught himself on the doorframe. "Officer Keller," a reporter shouted. "You just physically confronted a civilian on camera." Dwyer rushed forward. "Keller, stop." But Keller turned on him too, fury snapping like electricity. You're part of this, aren't you?" Dwyer didn't back away. "I'm done covering for you." Keller froze. The crowd fell silent. Dwyer squared his shoulders, voice trembling but loud enough for every microphone pointed at him. "I saw you falsify parts of that report. I heard the comments you made. I know why you targeted him." Keller took one step toward him. "Be very careful." "No," Dwyer said, louder now. "You be careful." Marcus felt his breath catch as Dwyer turned toward the crowd. "This wasn't about violations," Dwyer declared. "This was about bias. You all saw how he speaks to Marcus. Imagine what he says when cameras aren't around." Gasps, sharp whispers, flashing cameras. Keller lunged toward him. "Shut up." But before he could reach Dwyer, 2 city officials stepped out from behind the news crew, internal affairs investigators Marcus had never seen before. "Officer Keller," one said calmly, "please step aside. You are being placed under administrative review pending investigation." Keller spun, livid. "This is ridiculous. You believe him over me. Based on the evidence submitted, the official replied, we have reason to investigate further. The crowd erupted into murmurs. How dare you? Keller yelled. This entire thing is a setup. He's lying. They're all lying. Marcus met Keller's eyes, and for the first time, the officer looked cornered. Not powerful, not untouchable. Cornered. Internal Affairs escorted Keller away, still shouting. Reporters swarmed Marcus instantly. Mr. Reed, how long has this harassment been happening? Did you anticipate today's confrontation? What do you hope happens next? Marcus raised his hands gently. Please, I'm just trying to run my business. I want fairness, accountability. That's all. His voice cracked, and the camera softened. Across the street, Gloria wiped a tear from her cheek. Dwyer stepped beside Marcus, whispering, It's not over, but the truth is finally out. Marcus nodded. Thank you. And as the crowd watched the officers lead Keller away, something shifted not just in the neighborhood, but in the balance of power itself. For the first time, Marcus felt the weight on his shoulders lift just enough to let him breathe. But only just, because now that the world was watching, the real consequences were about to begin. The city felt different the next morning. Not calmer, but charged, buzzing with the aftershock of what had unfolded on camera. Marcus woke to messages from strangers, reporters, old customers, even distant relatives. Some sent support, some sent prayers, some shared their own stories. But one headline cut through everything. Officer Keller placed on leave after viral confrontation. Multiple victims come forward. Marcus read it twice, chest tightening. Victims, plural. His phone vibrated again, a call from Ms. Lynn. Marcus, she said, voice crisp but warm. Internal Affairs move quickly. Keller's facing a formal inquiry. They've gathered testimonies from 6 other business owners. Marcus sank into a chair. 6. At least, some were afraid to speak until yesterday. He closed his eyes. Exhaustion tugged at him. This is bigger than I thought. It usually is, Ms. Lynn replied. But remember, you didn't create this problem. You exposed it. Marcus didn't answer for a moment. What happens now? Internal Affairs will review evidence, interview witnesses, and determine disciplinary action. Keller could face suspension, demotion, or termination. Marcus exhaled. And if he fights it, then the city fights back. She paused. And so will we. He swallowed the knot in his throat. Thank you. We'll talk soon, she said gently. Take care of yourself today. When he hung up, Marcus looked around the shop, the jars, the shelves, the small space that had nearly been erased. A soft knock sounded at the door. Dwyer stood outside, not in uniform this time. Jeans, hoodie, hands shoved into pockets like a man unsure of where he belonged. Marcus opened the door. You okay? I don't know, Dwyer admitted. They questioned me this morning. Keller's furious. Or was. They took his badge while they investigate. Marcus studied him. You did the right thing. It doesn't feel right, Dwyer whispered. It feels like I set fire to my own career. Marcus stepped aside. Come in. Dwyer hesitated, then entered slowly. I wanted to see how you're holding up. That makes 2 of us, Marcus said softly. They stood in the quiet shop, the sunlight catching dust particles like floating embers. Dwyer's voice trembled. Keller's wife showed up at the station today. She yelled at everyone, said we ruined her husband's life. Marcus's chest tightened. You didn't ruin anything. Keller made choices. I know, Dwyer said, but it still feels heavy. Marcus nodded. Accountability always does. For a long moment, neither man spoke. Then Dwyer asked quietly, What about you? Are you relieved? Marcus leaned against the counter, staring at the floor. Relief isn't the word. When you fight someone who abuses power, even when you win, you lose something too. Dwyer looked up. What did you lose? Marcus rubbed his thumb over the wood grain. Trust, safety, the belief that hard work alone protects you. Dwyer swallowed. I'm sorry. Not your apology to make, Marcus said gently. Outside, a few neighbors passed by, some offering thumbs up, others nodding quietly in support. The tone of the block had shifted. Eyes were no longer avoiding him. People lingered, watching with something like pride. Looks like people are pulling for you, Dwyer said. Marcus smiled faintly. Maybe, or maybe they are just shocked. He glanced at the yellow suspension notice still taped to his window. It fluttered in the breeze like a warning whose time had run out. Internal affairs will clear your name, Dwyer said. Keller's report won't hold. Marcus nodded. But the damage is done. Maybe not permanently, Dwyer offered. Your story is everywhere. People know what happened. Marcus looked at him, really looked at the young officer standing in the quiet wreckage of someone else's wrongdoing. Are you afraid? Marcus asked softly. Dwyer hesitated. Yes. Marcus nodded. Good. Good. Dwyer frowned. Fear means you understand the cost, Marcus said. It means you care enough to feel it. Dwyer's eyes softened. A moment later, Marcus's phone chimed. A message from Ms. Lynn. The flagship renovation has been approved. Preparing announcement. Keep steady. Marcus felt something warm unfurl in his chest. Fragile, but real. He turned back to Dwyer. I don't know what tomorrow looks like. For either of us. Me neither, Dwyer admitted. But today, Marcus said, gazing out the window, today feels like a beginning. Dwyer nodded slowly. Yeah, it does. They stood together in the soft light, two men different in every way except the fact they'd both been caught in the gravity of Keller's downfall. Outside, the block was waking to a new truth, one that couldn't be silenced, dismissed, or written away in a police report. And though Marcus felt the scars of the past weeks deep under his skin, he also felt something else rising beneath them. A steadiness, a direction, a future he had earned. The renovation took 6 weeks. 6 weeks of dust, paint, contractors, corporate designers, and neighborhood curiosity pressing against every window. Marcus spent each day half in awe, half in disbelief as his tiny shop transformed into something he had never imagined for himself. By the time the new sign was mounted, Reed Botanicals, global flagship, the entire block stopped to watch. People clapped. Some recorded. Others just smiled, shaking their heads as if witnessing a kind of miracle. On opening morning, Marcus stood behind the new counter, hands resting on polished wood, staring at the line forming outside. The air hummed with anticipation. Soft chatter, the smell of fresh herbs steeping in the background, the faint echo of music playing from the newly installed speakers. Gloria burst in first, nearly knocking over a display. Marcus Reed, would you look at this place? He laughed. I still can't believe it's mine. Oh, it's yours, she said, grabbing his hand. And it's everything they said you couldn't have. Before he could respond, an older man stepped inside, Mr. Hernandez, moving slower than usual, cane tapping softly. He looked around, eyes shining. You did it, son. Marcus felt emotion tighten his throat. We did it, Mr. Hernandez. This block kept me standing. The door opened again. Reporters entered, followed by customers, neighbors, city officials. The flagship launch had drawn far more attention than expected, mostly because Keller's inquiry remained headline news. One reporter approached Marcus. Mr. Reed, do you have a statement for the press before the ribbon cutting? Marcus took a breath. Just one. He stepped forward so everyone could hear him. For a long time, he said, I thought running this shop meant proving myself every day to people who didn't want to see me succeed. But what I learned is that my worth isn't defined by who tried to tear me down. It's defined by the community that lifted me up. The crowd applauded softly. And this store, Marcus continued, is not just a business. It's a promise that people like me, people who are underestimated, dismissed, or targeted, can still rise, not because the system allows it, but because we refuse to disappear. A wave of emotion moved through the room. A journalist raised a hand. Do you have any comment on Officer Keller's disciplinary hearing? Marcus paused. The room fell silent. He finally said, I want accountability, not revenge. I want every small business owner who was scared into silence to feel protected. And I want our institutions to reflect the people they serve, not intimidate them. Another question followed. Do you forgive him? Marcus breathed slowly. His answer came not from anger, but from truth. Forgiveness takes time, he said, but healing can start without it. The crowd nodded, the weight of those words settling over them. Suddenly, someone stepped into the doorway. Dwyer, not in uniform, just plain clothes, hands in pockets, expression uncertain. He hovered near the back as if unsure whether he belonged. Marcus walked over. You came, Marcus said quietly. Dwyer nodded, didn't want to make a scene. Too late, Marcus said, smiling faintly. You being here says something. Dwyer lowered his voice. Internal Affairs asked me to testify again. They found more victims. Keller's going to face charges, real ones. Marcus exhaled. Steady. How do you feel? Scared, Dwyer admitted. Relieved and proud, I think. He paused. I never expected to be part of something like this. You chose the truth, Marcus said. That's bigger than any badge. Dwyer's eyes softened. And you chose to fight back. Not everyone does. They shared a quiet, grounded moment, two men navigating different pieces of the same broken system. Then Ms. Lynn entered, followed by the corporate team. She approached Marcus with a warm smile. Ready to cut the ribbon? She asked. Marcus glanced around. Gloria, Hernandez, neighbors, customers, reporters, Dwyer, his newly rebuilt store, and felt something settle in his chest. Not relief, but belonging. Yeah, he said. Let's do it. Outside, the crowd gathered as Marcus took the ceremonial scissors. Cameras flashed. The ribbon stretched across the storefront, vibrant and bright. Ms. Lynn whispered, This is your moment. Marcus lifted the scissors. But before cutting, he spoke one last time. To every person who's been told they are small, he said, voice steady even as emotion threatened to break it. Remember this, small beginnings don't stay small when you pour truth into them. The crowd held its breath. And no one, Marcus finished, gets to decide your worth. He cut the ribbon. The crowd erupted into applause, cheers, and flashing lights as Reed Botanicals officially opened its doors as a global flagship. As people rushed in, celebrating, buying his blends, filling the room with warmth and chatter, Marcus stepped aside for a moment, needing just one breath to himself. He looked at the storefront, at the community, at the sunlight pouring through the windows, and whispered, I made it. Not in triumph, not in revenge, but in resilience. And though the scars of the journey stayed with him, he finally felt something solid beneath his feet, a future he had earned, and a voice no one could silence again.